your sales invoice the amount that you've sold as organic. And then when the auditor comes on the day of the audit, just to give you an idea of how it would work roughly is firstly, there would be a document check. Then the auditor would go out to look at the fields to see if there's any. Normally, they would look at physical proof that you haven't applied any chemical fertilizers or pesticides to the fields. They would check your storage. Normally, there's a chemical storage site on the farm or room, and they would check that if you are doing conventional and organic farming, that the inputs are separated in there as well. They will calculate your actual yield to make sure that it coincides with your estimates, and you didn't buy in some conventional produce from your neighbor and sold it as organic. And they might also, it's always a good source of information for an auditor to speak with some of the workers on the farm itself. So it might involve worker interviews. So make sure that your workers are trained and they know the principles of organic farming as well. And then just to end off, this is a picture of one of our clients that's got one of the oldest pecan orchards in South Africa. And this was one of the first times that I really saw the massive difference between conventional and organic agriculture. Because as you drive to this farm, all of the pecan farmers in that area, all around them, they do conventional farming, and it's very dry, very barren, very sandy. And you get to this farm where these trees were planted in the late 1970s, and they've been managed organically since. And you walk in there, and it's like a living forest. You dig into the soil, and you find fungi, you find earthworms. You could smell the organic content. And you see birds, you see insects. You can have, even at the back, you can see the sheep that they also bring in to graze. So this is and these guys do really good, a really good quality product, and the yield is also really good. So this, this really proves to me that this is the way to farm, and to make sure that you can do it sustainably. There's a massive movement at the moment towards not farming conventionally anymore. It's almost like we made a step towards modern agriculture, and now we are realizing, our generation is realizing that maybe we made a bit of a mistake. So it's like we're stepping back now and moving more towards a type of agriculture where we incorporate ecosystems, we allow biodiversity to flourish, and the big change is actually the focus that is shifting from keeping the plant happy to keeping the soil happy. And by that, I'm finished as well. So thanks for your attention, and I'll give over to you, Kars, again.
Daniel, thank you very much. An interesting presentation that you've made, and you have managed to, from where I'm standing, unpack concerns that I have regarding certification. Is it something that's doable? How easy is it? Do we have the right certifiers in the region? So yeah, we have got ECOS at Southern Africa, and Daniel managed to touch on a number of key issues as well. In the interest of time, I'm not going to say much in terms of his presentation, but I'm going to call upon Matthias Vezos. So Matthias is a testimony of the fact that organic certification is possible. Exporting organic products to the US and other markets is possible. I'm not going to steal his thunder. I call upon Matthias. It's over to you to just give us a snippet in terms of the road that you have traveled through to get organic certification and to get to international markets. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Cos, for and to everybody else for allowing us to give a brief testimony about our company. I'm just going to try and share the attachment that I want to show you. Okay, it doesn't look like it's coming on. Could I ask that the presentation gets put on from your side, Cos?
Sure. My colleague is going to project your presentation. Tanya?
Okay, so our company is a company based in South Africa, and we actually function as a co-op where we are now at about 31 farmers that have joined up with our company. And to become a member in the company, you have to be a farmer who actually produces essential oils. That's the only way you can become a member. Sorry, can we go back again? Okay, so what's interesting with our company is that some of our growers are doing organic, and some of our growers or members are doing conventional oils. So we supply both of those companies. Sorry, you keep jumping.
I beg your pardon, Matthias. Let me just remove it's automated, so that's why it keeps jumping automatically. So I'll need to remove those for you.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Hello, Tanya.
Right. Well, okay.
I hear you, Matthias.
Are you winning,
sorry.
Tanya?
Are you winning with the presentation, Tanya?
Yes. So I have to remove each automation individually.
Okay.
Right. Meanwhile, Matthias, probably you can just tell us more. You can continue to tell us more about your company.
Okay, no problem. I'll do that. Okay, so our big thing is, so we do essential oils, and currently we are producing 6 different types of essential oils. We are working hard on trying to get more essential oils onto the market, but it takes a long time. We work very closely with clients to ensure that the type of oil that we're getting is exactly what they're looking for. So, for example, lemongrass, there's very specific sort of compounds that the clients are looking for, and sometimes we can be bringing in varieties that don't actually have the right compounds, and it takes often 3 or 4 years before we can actually even find the right type of variety that the clients are looking for. The whole sort of ethos and thought pattern for Ayanda was taking it directly from the farmer as close to the end user, the market, as possible, to try and sort of take out the middleman. That was pretty much the whole thought of setting up our co-op, so that the farmers would actually market the oil themselves and try and maximize on revenue return to the actual farmers. Currently, Ayanda has about 650 hectares under production, and we have a lot more land available, but it's very easy to oversupply the market with essential oils. So we carefully monitor how our sales go every year before we expand. So it's a lot of time and patience is put aside for making sure that we don't oversupply the market and that we work hard on building the market. And once we establish how big the market actually is, that's when we will actually expand on the production of our oil. So we tend to take a bit of a more cautious approach in terms of how we expand. We're very lucky. We've got 7 geographically separated distilleries. Some of our distilleries are by the coast in KwaZulu-Natal, and then some of them go up into the higher mountain areas. And this does allow us to grow different types of crops that are more suited for the different areas. We'll tend to maximize on those areas. Interestingly enough for us, being in the essential oil market, most of our product actually goes to the EU and the UK, and it's taken us a very long time to get into the US market from an organic point of view. So that's where we traditionally sold to, was in the EU and the UK, but we are banking on the sort of global trend of organic demand, and we're slowly getting in with the US from organic sales point of view, and it's growing very nicely, but it's definitely, for us personally, not as big as the EU and the UK, but we do believe it will be growing at a faster rate in the future compared to the EU and the UK, where we believe we've pretty much saturated a lot of those markets. Shipping for us personally into the USA is actually a lot easier than the EU. One of the reasons is the EU's got quite strict REACH legislation, and we've actually just recently acquired our REACH certification for tea tree oil, which was actually a very expensive certification to get. But the US doesn't have that at the moment, so generally speaking, exports into the US are a lot easier. There are other legislations that need to be taken into consideration, like your importer security filing and all of those things that need to be done. But if you've got a good logistic agent, like we're lucky to have, they can generally make sure that all that paperwork is done in advance. So it is very important to have a good logistic agent when sending obviously to everywhere, but also into the US. The EU has an online traces system for your certificate of inspection set up by ECHA, and we actually really like this system. We find this online system allows to sort of narrow the gap between the buyer and the supplier and the buyer, and it keeps everyone a lot more in the loop about how the shipment's actually going. And it was actually set up by the EU to control a lot better the sort of movement of organic products into and out of the EU. From what I've heard, the US is looking into a similar system, and I can only imagine that this will greatly enhance the US's ability to track and monitor organic goods in and out of the US, like what Alexis was talking about. Product liability for us is a big problem in the US and Canada. A lot of insurance companies from South Africa shy away from trying to do that, so it comes at a great cost, and it was very difficult for us to get product liability for our different essential oils. So that is one thing that companies exporting into the US should be very aware of, that it's going to come at quite a high cost, relatively speaking, compared to other countries for product liability. Going forward into the future, we were very pleased to hear by Alexis about the sort of growing market in the US, and that's personally been our experience also, that organic products are increasing all the time going into the US every year, and we are banking on that in terms of our production. Having said that, though, we are very cautious in terms of how we expand, because sometimes it's not as quick as what you would hope. The market also for a lot of organic products, because there's a lot more people getting involved with it, the supply is often increasing, and we're very cautious and aware of that. And to keep yourself ahead of it, it's very important to ensure that you keep on doing other certifications. For us personally, GMP, HACCP, and food grade are up there with the most important other certifications, organic certification, and your clients are wanting that. So it's very important to be looking at those certifications in the future also. We've obviously also noticed all the fair trade sort of certifications playing a much larger role going forward, which is why we're busy investigating and working with EcoCert on that. But then ultimately, as sort of just a final closing remark, the quality of the product is and always will be of the most important, or up there with the most important factor when supplying any company. And so that in terms of maintaining long-term relationships, quality is up there with the most important thing. And if you can maintain that and get all your other ducks in a row, you should have a very successful relationship with all your clients and in the US. That's pretty much my presentation, and I'd just like to thank everyone for giving us the opportunity to do this.
Matthias, thank you so much for sharing your experience as an exporter from the region who has gone through certification and exporting both to the US and also covering Europe and other markets. And congratulations for cracking it into those international markets. Right, we running out of time. So we're going to borrow from George his remarks session. We're going to leave him with 5 minutes. So we're going to do question and answer, just 10 minutes. Let me mention that questions that would not have been answered during this session, we'll make time to have them answered. The panelists, we will reach out to the panelists and then they will attend to the questions. So let me just rush to the questions that have not been answered, because I've seen that during the presentations, some questions have been answered already. So some of the questions I have here, this is one of the questions from West Advisors. They are saying we are producing compost from a decomposable waste source. We use a thermophilic process to ensure thorough pasteurization and get tested for heavy metals. Our customers wanted to know if we can get organic certification. What would I start with this process? So I guess this question is for Daniel.
Thanks, Cos. It's definitely possible to certify the product as an organic input, allowed for use in organic agriculture. It'll all depend on the raw materials that goes into the compost. So there's a very interesting difference as well between NOP's requirements for the use of animal manure and the EU in terms of the source. So the EU does not allow any manure from factory farming to be used in organic farming. None of that manure, while the NOP regulation does allow that, but they are very strict in terms of the composting regulations. So they have a different say that you need to reach a certain temperature for a certain amount of time, and also to turn your compost at least 5 times within that period. And then you also need an initial carbon to nitrogen ratio, a very specific carbon to nitrogen ratio of between 1 to 25 and 1 to 40. So it's very difficult for some people to reach that. If you can't comply to those composting requirements, we view it under NOP, we view it as raw manure. You can still use that, but there's a withholding period for the farmers. So if it's direct contact with the crop, the withholding period is 120 days, so 4 months. And if it's not direct contact with the crop, you can only apply it up to 90 days, so 3 months prior to harvest.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. The next question is UV sterilization allowed in the US? I guess Alexis or Mark.
I do not know the answer to that question, but I would be happy to do some research and follow up.
Yeah, UV, I don't think so. I know that in South Africa, companies are using UV, and I think you're able to pull at this time a log 1, which probably doesn't mean anything to some of you guys or most of you guys. You can either pull a log 1 or log 2. And there's a lot of buyers that, now again, this is not anything to do with FDA. These are the buyers. And regardless of what the FDA is, they don't regulate a lot of different things, but they regulate the buyers in the States in terms of what's being sent to the supermarkets. So if you're bringing in a product that doesn't have a log 5 or log 4, most buyers won't even buy that, for instance, on macadamias, unless they go ahead and do a further process in the United States. So what I'm finding, there are processors that have installed UV as a kill step that to assure them that they're within where they need to be. So we would have to check, but I don't think that UV has been authorized as a FDA certified kill step.
Thank you, Mark. The next question is, when exporting, this coming from Sebastian, when exporting from a country that does not have an NOP recognized by the US, does the US accept EcoCert certified products under the EU certification equivalents? Daniel and Alexis?
Daniel, go ahead. You can go first.
Thanks, Alexis. Yeah, Sebastian is actually one of our clients, so I don't mind answering his question. It's important to remember, Sebastian, that EcoCert is not a standard, even though we have the equivalence with the EU. That standard is called EOS, the EcoCert Organic Standard, but EcoCert in itself is not a standard. So therefore, it's you can only export to the EU with EOS, with the EcoCert Organic Standard. If you want to export to the US, you would need to also apply for NOP and be certified according to that standard. It's actually very complex, and there's a couple of loopholes. I mean, if you let's say you sell your product EOS certified, you sell it to a company, you export it to the EU, and they repackage or relabel the product, they can send it to the US as organic because they've got an equivalence. So there's a lot of ways around it, but it's obviously expensive and not always a viable option. But you do have to then be certified for NOP as well.
And just add on that you could send your product directly to the United States. You just wouldn't be able to label it as organic. So you're missing out on the price point.
Exactly.
Right. Excellent. Just two quick questions, and then we hand over to George. So this one is saying, this is a live case. We are in the process of having our goods certified. We are aware that part of the organic certification auditing process involves site inspection. We have future plans to upscale and move into a larger space to manufacture. Does this mean that we have to have that new space audited again? What impact would change in production location have on our already issued certificate? That's coming from Mareka Masule. Daniel, it's over to you.
Thanks.
And the next question, then this will be for Alexis, saying we produce certified organic ribose tea and would like to export to the US. Where can I get in touch with companies that import ribose for the US? Mark and Alexis. Right. So let's start with Daniel, and after that, we hand over to George. We unfortunately have run out of time. Yeah, over to you, Daniel.
Thanks, guys. It's important to know that when there's any change in your company, especially if there's a change in site, so if you change your factory from one site to another, there needs to be an additional on-site audit. So it doesn't necessarily need to be, it's not going to be a full audit, and it's not going to be the cost of a full audit. It's just going to focus on just to check that everything you have in the new factory is according to standard and according to regulation, and you separate your organic and conventional material. So yes, it would definitely entail an additional audit. But if you throughout the year, if you, for instance, you want to add products as a trader, or you add products that goes through exactly the same processing, it's possible to do that without an additional on-site audit.
Okay, thank you. Alexis?
Sure.
Or Mark, you want? Yeah.
I was just going to echo all of the really good suggestions that Mark gave earlier, particularly trade shows. They're just huge for getting in front of people. He mentioned natural products. There's 2 natural products shows that happen in the United States. Expo West is going to take place in California in May, hopefully May of 2021. Expo East takes place in Philadelphia in September. These are the big shows in the United States for these products, as well as fancy food. And then internationally, BioFach, which happens in Germany in February, is a key show. That's the largest organic show in the world. So would recommend that. Just want to restate all of the really good suggestions that Mark gave, especially looking at the trade show directory lists. You can reach a lot of contacts that way.
Okay, thank you so much, colleagues. Mark, you wanted to come in? Or it's covered?
Yeah, just real quick on the
Royus, there was a company in South Africa looking for markets, and I worked with them. The issue with tea, it's a real up and coming item, or it has been up and coming, and they have so many specialty teas. The competition's fierce. I like Rooibos because it's something different, and it's a different product, but it's very related. Yeah, I think going to the shows and finding out the shows and finding people, or even going on LinkedIn and Google it, or not Google it, but look for it on LinkedIn to find out who's handling teas in the States and see if you can get a hold of them. But it's a competitive market.
Okay, thank you so much. George, over to you.
Thanks very much, Koz, and thanks very much to Alexis, Matthias, Daniel, and Mark. Just to carry on with the answer to the question that was being answered just now. One piece to the puzzle that you are forgetting here is us, USAID Southern Africa Trade Investment Hub. We should be one of your first, I guess, your first port of call when you are looking for information.
Are we waiting for George?
Sorry? Okay, so when you are looking for information to be linked to buyers in the US, also to buyers for those that are outside South Africa, to buyers in South Africa. So please reach out to us. We do have offices throughout the region, in all the countries that I mentioned earlier. Slide that we have there is just to help you know who is who, where you might be. And you can actually reach out to those country representatives for the USAID Southern Africa Trade Hub. If you are not able to reach any of these guys in your country, please feel free to get in touch with the USAID Trade Hub in South Africa, or go to our website, which we'll share with you just now, and you'll be able to link up with us. So there are a number of ways of getting in touch with us, and also getting in touch with some potential buyers, which we can actually link you to in the process. Next slide, please. So in closing, I just want to also share with you the information on our upcoming webinars. And we do have very interesting webinars coming up in line with our efforts, like I mentioned at the beginning, to ensure that you are well informed to make informed decisions on the way forward. The next webinar that we are going to be holding, and in partnership with SAFLEC, is to do with handbags and accessories. And that again, that one will also involve buyers and potential suppliers from the region. So you are all invited and welcome to attend. The other webinar that we are planning to hold is on building sustainable buyer relationships. And that's going to be on the 19th of November. And we also are planning to have a specialty foods B2B webinar on a date to be advised. So as I indicated earlier, if you need more information on the webinars, including today's webinar, the webinars that we have held in the past, you can visit our website, which is displayed there, www.satihub.com, and you can actually navigate your way to where you can find the recordings of the webinars that we've had in the past. And you can actually then use that to refresh your memory and get in touch with us where you have questions. So now that we have had an opportunity to talk about the market trends as well as certification requirements, I take it we should then be in a position to make informed decisions on how we can proceed going forward, particularly where we are looking at pursuing organic certification. That said, I want to encourage you to continue to interact amongst yourselves as participants. There is a wealth of information that we hold here as participants ourselves, as growers, as exporters, and amongst ourselves, we might even find that there are buyers who might be interested in buying from you. And as well as like in Matthew's case, where he's able to share his experiences when it comes to exporting to the US. So it is a valuable, a valuable source of information that you can actually use. At the same time, the participants or the panelists or presenters that we had here today, you can still reach out to them. Where you do not have their contacts, please reach out to us. We will link you up with them, and they will be more than willing to assist. Also, the questions that were not answered during this discussion or this webinar, we will be sending those questions to the relevant presenters, and they will provide us with answers to those questions, and then we will share with you their responses. So don't feel discouraged that your question was not attended to. So that's the way forward based on what we've just discussed here. And again, I urge you to keep talking to us. We will be able to assist in terms of getting you the information, or at least pointing you in the right direction where you can actually get your question to be attended to. I promised that we will end this meeting at 5. I might have said 4:30 earlier. I was just thinking about it. But what I meant was that we will have this session end at 5. This is 5:05, and we don't want to keep you any longer. I would like to thank you again for taking time to attend this webinar. And I also want to thank all our presenters for all the valuable information they shared with us. With those words, have a lovely day. Thank you.